Well, greetings everybody. So in the last video I made, I talked about measures of variation, which roughly tell us how spread out data is in a data set. And I gave you their names, the variance, the standard deviation, and the range, as well as their formulas and the symbols that go along with them. Okay. Now, these formulas are difficult to use for most data sets. Okay. If you have a lot of numbers in your data set, it will be difficult to do what I've done here and solve this on paper. So we're going to use some kind of a calculator probably all the time. So let's talk about how to do that. Okay, so here's two problems from MyMathLab, and I'll work both of them and show you different ways that we can do it. Okay, so here I'm given the number of regular season wins for 10 football teams, so on. And it tells me that this is a population. So that'll be important to notice, because when we do calculations or statistics, it will be different if we're dealing with a population versus a sample. What's the difference between those? Well, a sample comes from a population. We take a sample from a population in order to know something about it most of the time. But the formulas will be different, and the way we calculate will usually be different too. Okay, so let's talk about this one. Here's my data set, all right, and I want the range, mean, variance, and standard deviation, and it's a population. Okay, now I think the most obvious way to do things in our class is to use StatCrunch, because when you're working problems in StatCrunch or in MyMathLab, so here's a look at MyMathLab. We might see something like this some of the times when we're working in MyMathLab. If a data set's given, I can click here and it says open in StatCrunch. And then I can use that to make all of my calculations much easier. Okay, so say I did that. Say like this was a problem in MyMathLab and I used this icon and I opened in StatCrunch and so on. Then I might see something like this. Okay, all right, so let's get StatCrunch together with this question. And my numbers would either be in here already, or I could type them in if I wanted to. All right, so here 2, 6, all that right there. I type them in and they're there like I need them to be. They're in column VAR1. All right, now my goal is to show you how I can use StatCrunch, which I have open and ready to go, to find the range, the mean, the population variance, the population standard deviation. Okay, so let's talk about how to do that. I have provided you with the basic commands for using StatCrunch. What we do is we go to stat right here and then summary stats, okay, and then columns. All right, I do columns because my data is organized in columns. All right, now mean will be either the population or sample mean, it doesn't matter. Variance will be sample variance. Range will be population or sample range. std.dev, that'll be sample standard deviation, and so on. Okay, now in this question I want the population statistics. All right, so let's see. I'll select VR1 right there, and then over here I need to select for populations, let's see, unadjusted variance for population variance, unadjusted standard deviation for population standard deviation. So I'm going to have to do something like this. All right, so let's see, the mean doesn't matter. Okay, I need to go down to unadjusted variance, which I'll select like that. Whoops, hold on.